Thank you, Deepmala, and welcome to each of you to this around 3 months of 3 months long discourse on corporate social responsibility. Today, while we are launching this program, first of all, let us actually think that this is a group we are trying to form. Through these 3 months, we will be having discussions together. We'll be learning together, and we'll be sharing our expertise and experiences, our perspectives with each other, so that what we'll be doing with this webinar, we will create some kind of social media platform for all of us where we'll be participating on a continuous basis. So this is something, a continuous learning, that is what we will try to do. And this will not be limited within the webinar, because we can see that this webinar is more like one-way conversation. So I'll not be listening to you. I'll be talking and you'll be listening. So that what we'll try to do is that we'll try to actually be active on the common platform, what we'll be creating and we'll be sharing with you shortly. It might be a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page where we can actually participate on a day-to-day basis and exchange our ideas and experiences. Now, to start with, what I will do is that let us first know each other. Deepmala has already introduced me. So I have been in this field for last more than 20 years and have worked across the sectors, NGO, corporate, and government. So now you can call me a social entrepreneur because for last 6.5 years I have been I'm working with CSO Partners. This is an organization I've started in Chennai, and the purpose of CSO Partners is to create such kind of meaningful engagement for corporate and NGOs to collaborate to the goal of inclusive growth. Broadly, that is the criteria. That is a broad objective. But at the same time, CSO Partners, toward this objective, we do a lot of things. We provide advisory to the corporate. We provide advisory to the NGOs. We incubate different innovative ideas and make it a sustainable project. What we think that these kind of ideas would be useful for the social segment, social sector of India. And also we do a lot of research. CSO Partners by itself is a connecting platform. And just to inform you that CSO Partners and CII South region, both of us coming together to create another very, very useful platform at this particular context, where we'll try to connect all the social actors, and we'll also provide templated projects and customized services for the corporates, especially for CSR solution. So, in coming days, we'll actually be doing a lot of things with CII, and this particular session is part of our capacity building program, what we have started for different corporates and for the different NGOs. So I welcome you again to the first batch of the certificate course. And before I start the session, what I will do is that I will introduce you with the other participants, so that I will read out the names and the companies from where they're coming and the role they're playing in that particular company, as it is given, while registration. And then probably we know exactly what kind of group we are working with for next 3 months. One thing what I see is that it's a very good representation in the participants list from different regions of India, and also we have a couple of participants from Qatar. We have representation from different kind of industries, a very diverse set of industries. So, I would say that it's a very, very, good opportunity for all of us to interact with each other, so that, whenever we'll share that social media platform with you, let us try to actually connect with each other and try to make it a kind of mutual learning process than one-way conversation. So let me read out the names of the participants. I welcome Mr. Navanit Shetty. She is from This is Galfa Al Misad Engineering and Contracting, WLL. Her designation is Head QHSE. The second person who is also from the same company is Shailendra Aswal. Then I welcome Mr. Anil Gupta. Anil Gupta is the process leader from Aksh Optifiber Limited. Then Mr. Madhu Raghunath, head HR and operation, TVS and Sons. In fact, we have 3 participants from TVS. Second person from TVS is Mr. S. Selvaraj. Welcome, Mr. Selvaraj. He is the senior general manager. Mr. R. Selvaraj, Deputy General Manager, so that we have S. Selvaraj and R. Selvaraj from TVS. Then we have Atul Vaidya. He is the General Manager Sales from Orlikon Textile India Private Limited. Mr. Ketan Rathore, he is the Deputy Manager IT. He is from the same company. The third person actually from the same company. We have 3 persons. Miss Mitshu Vyas, Senior Manager HR and Admin. Then we have the participants from Tata Consultancy Services, Mr. Victor Praveen Kumar. He is the Senior Manager HR. Then we have Mrs. Kanchana Mala. She is from Sutherland Global Services and she is a Senior Specialist there. Mr. Sachit Rajan is the Director, Charter BPO Solutions Private Limited. Ms. Shilpa Rajan, she is also from Charter BPO Solutions Private Limited. Mr. Ranganath Seer is Head Facilities and Sourcing. He is from Altair Engineering Private Limited. Mr. Sripati Kamath, Assistant Manager Facilities. He is from the same company, Altair Engineering Private Limited. Mrs. Mahalakshmi M is the Manager HR. She is from Hexagon Nutrition Private Limited. Mrs. Lakshmi R. Pillai, she is the Senior Donor Intelligence Officer and she is from International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, that is ICRISAT. Mr. Bharat Garg, he is from EC Engineers. Mr. Shobha V. Mani is the Program Manager, IBM India Private Limited. Mr. Sagar Datta, he is the Executive Special Initiatives, Tata Consultancy Services. Mr. Abhilash K, Assistant Consultant from the same organization, Tata Consultancy Service Limited. Mr. Abuzar Anas Khan, Executive Special Initiatives, Tata Consultancy Service Limited. Mr. Brinda Jha, Miss Brinda Jha, she is Assistant Manager from Tata Consultancy Service Limited. Mr. Kishan Gopal, Executive Special Initiative, Tata Consultancy Service Limited. Miss Sarika Kohli, Executive Special Initiative, she is also from Tata Consultancy Service Limited. Mr. Vivek Avasthi, Manager, Engineering Limited, Engineers India Limited. Mr. Gautam Babu Jaiswal, Senior HR Officer, Engineers India Limited. Ms. Anju Mary Kuruvilla, Manager Internal Communication and CSR, Danfoss Industries Private Limited. Ms. Pratibha Kulkarni, Assistant Manager CSR. This is Kempegowda International Airport. Mr. Winston S.K. Adams, Vice President Corporate Affairs. He is from Phoenix IT Solutions Limited. So I welcome most sincerely to all of you to this 3 months long session of and we'll be discussing about corporate social responsibility. So as I said that right now we'll try to actually connect all of you on a social media platform, and very soon we will actually get in touch with you, and I will request all of you to register yourself to whatever the social media we create for a continuous connection and continuous learning from each other. With that, what I will do today, to start with, I will introduce the course content and the session plan with you. because what we have given a very broad curriculum we have provided to you while you are registering for this course. And today what we'll do is that we'll try to provide you day-wise what are the topics we'll be discussing about, and also we'll see that, first of all, this is a kind of broad framework. We'll be flexible. So if we see that, in one day we need to take little more time, probably we'll carry over that particular topic in the next day, and we'll see that, we can have a meaningful conversation. So that is the kind of flexible model we have. But at the same time, we should have some kind of plan. So this is the broad plan in front of you. And we'll be sharing this plan with you, and we'll share that PowerPoint presentation also. So, we will get the plan. So you don't have to write down this at this point of time. Now, August 5 today, definitely, we have a kind of welcome and introduction session to start with. Then we'll be introducing the course. That is what I'm doing now. Then today, broadly, we will be discussing about concept and evolution of CSR. The concept and evolution of CSR. So this is a kind of theoretical framework. We'll try to see that, how the concept has evolved from different countries, what are the kind of process it has gone through, and we'll try to understand, see the important part to start this particular conversation, I would rather say, or this dialogue, is that we have a broad common perspective at least. So we have our unique thoughts, definitely, we have our different perspectives, but at the same time, we'll have to have some kind of agreement in a broader framework. So that is what we'll try to do that today. And then we'll try to see that, is there any business case for CSR? Then definitely, as every day we'll try to do, we'll have a question answer session. So for every day, first of all, I would request you that please make sure that you are logged in by 11 o'clock for all of these days, because today we have observed that few of the participants, probably they had some genuine problems or something, they were not logged in at 11 o'clock. So as you can understand that we don't have much time, so we'll have to actually make use of the time available. And second thing is that when probably most of us are already logged in and few of the participants are not logged in, so we'll have to actually show mutual respect to each other and say that people are not waiting for us, so that we can start the session at 11 o'clock itself. Now on the second day, August 12th, 2014, we will be discussing about international frameworks and guidelines relating to CSR. As you know that there is a plethora of guidelines, frameworks, and standards at international level. So we'll try to have an understanding of this kind of global development of CSR framework. Then we'll have a specific discussion on the National Voluntary Guideline of CSR. You must be knowing that there was a National Voluntary Guideline, and it is still there. I don't know what would be the status of the National Voluntary Guideline, because the Companies Act is making the CSR provision mandatory. But still it is there, so that we'll try to understand the perspective of National Voluntary Guideline, because we need to understand the national perspective. In 2009, the National Voluntary Guideline was launched, and then again 2013, the Companies Act made CSR mandatory for a specific group of companies. Now CSR provisions under the section 135 of the Companies Act in 2013, definitely we'll have to have an understanding about the provisions as prescribed in the Companies Act 2013, and try to see that how, this is a question of compliance, but at the same time we'll have to have a critical review of the provisions of the Act and try to see it in the context of the conceptual development, the purpose of CSR, and also try to see that what is the global development. In that particular context, we'll try to understand the Companies Act, and how would we actually comply with that Act, and also we'll try to see that how we'll also align ourselves to the global framework of CSR. On third day, we'll start Module 2. The Module 2 is designed to have minimum understanding of different thematic aspects. It is health, it is education, livelihood, water sanitation. There are so many other aspects, but we selected 4 common themes from all the social issues, so that we can have a good understanding about these social themes, because we thought that once even if you are a CSR manager, if you are managing CSR, but at the same time you need to have some minimum understanding about these thematic aspects, so that we can manage the CSR program or even plan the CSR program in a more effective manner. So in module 2 we will be discussing about health. In health we will be discussing about reproductive and child health. We will be discussing about a little bit of HIV/AIDS. We will discuss about preventive and community health. In education we will discuss about early childhood care and development. We will discuss about primary educations, the aspects of special education for differently abled. These are the aspects we will try to have a kind of broad understanding on. Then on the 3rd day of module 2, that is September 2nd, we will discuss about livelihood and employment aspects. In that, broadly we will discuss about entrepreneurship, we will discuss about employability and skill development, microfinance and SIG. Those are the very common thing we see that the NGOs and the CSR programs they address. So that we think we thought that we should actually have a kind of understanding of on all these thematic aspects. Now on September 9th, the last day of module 2, we will have a specific discussion of water and sanitation, and also with that we will have a reflective discussion on the last 3 days what we have discussed on health, education and livelihood. If you have more questions and if you see that more issues to be discussed, probably we'll try to cover it on September 9th with water and sanitation. Now in these all these thematic aspects, 2 broad areas we will be discussing. One is that try to understand the issue, that health as an issue. Let us try to have an understanding. Then we'll try to understand that status of health condition in India particularly. Then we'll try to see that what are the approaches and strategies are there to work on health issues. So in all the aspects like health, education, livelihood and water, we'll be discussing about one, having understanding of the issue, and second, that what are the interventions, approach and strategies we can have to address those issues in particular context of India. Now in module 3, we have more hands-on skills. What we'll be discussing on skills, methodology and processes. So we know by that time that we have a broad understanding about CSR. We know the provisions in the Companies Act. By that time we have an understanding about the global frameworks. We have understanding at least few issues, few social issues like health, education, livelihood and water sanitation. And then now we'll have to see that okay, we know all these things. Now how to actually develop a program, how to manage a program. So those aspects, those hand-on skill and processes and methodologies we will be discussing in module 3. So that we'll start module 3 with a vision building. So if you really implement CSR, if you really want to start CSR or manage the ongoing CSR and develop qualitatively, then what are the things you must be doing and what are the skills you would be requiring. So in September 6th, we will be discussing on vision building and stakeholder analysis, issue analysis, situational assessment, need analysis. So those are the common terminologies and common things what people do around us, but at the same time we'll have to have little better understanding that how to do that in an effective manner. Now on September 23rd and 30th, these 2 days we'll be discussing the few these following aspects. One is the developing theory of change, program planning and resource planning, monitoring and evaluation of CSR. So in this, we are trying to actually, the first thing we are trying to just before program design, what are the things, before program implementation and design, what are the things we'll have to do. So that if you see on September 16th, we are doing a broad vision building, stakeholder analysis, issue analysis. So based on this analysis and the processes, we'll get into the program planning. So the first thing in program planning, or even first thing to understand that what we'll do and how we'll do, is developing a theory of change. Then we will get into program planning and resource planning. We will get into the discussion on monitoring and evaluation of CSR. Then October 7th, 2014, we will be discussing on CSR policy development. Because why we have kept CSR policy development after all these discussions? Because if you have seen the format given in the Companies Act, that if you want to do the policy, you will have to do the program planning also. So it is not a broad policy framework, but at the same time you will have to mention that what are the programs you will be doing, how much money you will be spending, and how even you will do the monitoring, and everything has to be given in the policy document. So that what we are trying to do is that we are actually trying to do the whole process and then try to develop see that how to develop a policy framework. And then we will also discuss on October 7th about partnership development with NGOs. So in that, as you can understand that there are different kind of approaches of CSR management. One could be a direct approach, that the particular company is doing it themselves. One could be an indirect approach. It could be through your foundations, it could be through NGOs, or it could be in collaboration with other corporate. So one of the core aspect what we see, that whether you do it or directly or indirectly, at some point of time, most of the CSR program, they get into a partnership with the NGOs to implement program at a grassroots level. So we thought that it is important to have a discussion that how do you understand an NGO, how to do the due diligence, how to develop a partnership, how to manage the partnership. What are the aspects you actually make sure that in the partnership with the NGOs. So those are the aspects we'll be discussing on October 7th. Now module 4 is actually, it's not me, you will have to do. Each of you will have to do 2 assignments, and please note that these 2 assignments are mandatory for each of you to have to complete the course. Now, what kind of assignments you can do? You can actually develop a CSR policy framework, probably for your company. You can do a program planning, you can do a stakeholder analysis, you can do a case study of CSR, or for an NGO, you can do an NGO assessment. So we can have a discussion and figure out that what are the particular assignments each of you will be doing. And what we will do is that before 3rd module, once the 3rd module, because the 3rd module is actually aiming at those skills and expertise to do all these things. So while we will be doing 3rd module, at that point of time you will have to decide on those assignments, and you will have to give a short synopsis, a short brief to say that what are the things you want to do, what are the methodologies you will take to do that particular exercise or the assignment, what is the objective of that particular assignment. Even if it is a small brief note, that you will have to submit, and you will have to then work on that. So what we are expecting, that if you can submit that before 18th November, that's the last day of the sessions, that's well and good. Otherwise, you will have to submit these 2 assignments, and these 2 assignments definitely I would expect from each of you that you will actually do a quality job and serious job, and do something what would be useful for you. I mean, I'm not saying that you do something which is not you'll be using in your work and do some kind of academic exercise. I would say that there will be many things, many requirements at this point of time what you need to do for your company, and this is an opportunity. Probably we can actually support you to do that, and do those 2 assignments and submit by 30th of November. Once you submit this 30th November in a proper manner, then we will actually consider that you have completed the course and then we'll issue the certificate for each of you. But again, this is not the end of learning. This is just to start the process. We will remain connected on the social media platform we will be creating, so that as a group we will continue learning after 30th November also. And that is a bigger learning, I would say, but because at that point of time all of us will be applying whatever we have learned and actually get experience and get to understand that during application probably will get more difficulties. Some during application you will be getting more learning. You will learn more about the skills and expertises what you will gather from this course. And at that point of time, I would be very happy to see that you guys are coming back on the social media platform. You are exchanging your ideas, and you are probably seeking more guidance and support from me. And I would be very happy to actually remain connected with each of you while you will be applying the knowledge you have acquired from this particular course. Now with that, I would get into the discussion of today. One proposition, what many of my friends have put forward to me is that, and this is a question to you, because this is something I don't want to decide on everything. So you guys will have to decide that should we have a break in between of each session, so that many people are saying that 2 hours is a long stretch, and at least we should have 5 to 10 minutes of break in between. So I would actually leave that question to you, because I don't want to take the decision. You take the decision. I am fine to continue for 2 hours. If you think that if you guys need a break for 10 minutes in between, then collectively we can decide on that. So I will be leaving on that today. While you will be sending your questions and queries, probably you can actually share your thought about that. Should we have a 5 to 10 minutes break after an hour of the session, and then to continue the session for another hour or 45 minutes, whatever it is. With that, I'll start the sessions. I see few comments probably are there. If it is anything relevant for the discussion I have done till now, I would first answer that and get into the discussion. So no, I don't see any relevant question. There are some complaints that probably it was not audible to few of you, but I think it is already rectified, and I hope that you guys don't have the problem still. Okay, so we'll get into the discussion for today. As I said that today we'll be discussing on the concept of CSR and the evolution of CSR. And then later we'll be having a discussion on business case for CSR. So we'll try to see that does it make any sense for business to do CSR? Is there any financial or economic return also from CSR? Now CSR, when we talk about CSR, and it is not only corporate social responsibility, sometimes we use actually the term I prefer is business responsibility more than corporate social responsibility. Some people use corporate social performance, some people use sustainability, and we have number of jargons, we have number of terminologies. But whenever we use the terminologies, as we have written on this slide, it means something, but not always the same thing to everybody. So that when we look at from different angles, from different industries, from different situations, from different contexts, we have a different kind of understanding and different kind of implications even on your business for that particular terminology or for that particular process. So again, there is to start with, I would say that there is nothing wrong, there is nothing right, but we'll have to have some core belief around that. We can have different manifestations to have different perspectives, so that what are the core beliefs out of that we'll carry over, we'll carry back. That is what we'll try to see, and we'll have to have some understanding on these core beliefs. Now, again, before getting in the conceptual discussion, first of all, I congratulate all of you that you have chosen probably to get into this profession, whatever the reason. It might be the compliance issue, it might be this particular company, what you are working with, they are interested about corporate social responsibility. Naturally, I know many of these companies from where you are coming, it is not today. For long time, these organizations are actually involved with corporate social responsibilities in some form. And some companies definitely have done excellent work in terms of corporate social responsibility. But today, I will congratulate all of you, because this is a kind of a very cause-oriented profession. This profession of corporate social responsibility is actually based on very deeply rooted values and causes. So that each of us, we need to understand that this is as any other profession. Like if you are coming from HR, you will probably understand the most, because you see that unless and until you believe in some core values of that particular profession, definitely we cannot excel in that profession. Like the HR profession, as an example, if I can cite that, it is not about it is not about labor problems. It is not about labor litigation. It is about how do you actually develop the resource and optimize the motivation of people and create a kind of belongingness with the process you are driving. And you see that how do you really see that how people around you, the human resources, can flourish in their respective professions. So that is the way. If you don't believe in that core values, then probably one cannot be a professional in HR, in human resource development. So that in CSR profession also there are some core values. In CSR profession also there are some cause we need to believe in, and then only we can see that we really enjoy doing that. Otherwise, what happens is that we'll be doing it for the sake of compliance. We'll be doing it for the sake of another step in our career. This is something different we are doing, but at the same time we'll have to see that if you don't believe in that, probably it would be difficult to enjoy this profession. And definitely this is a noble profession. I congratulate you, all of you, to get involved with this profession. Now, CSR is not a new term. I mean, nowadays it has become a kind of buzzword around us. Everybody is talking about CSR. Everybody is talking about business responsibility. But definitely this is something not very new. Historically, we see evidences. Even during the time of King Hammurabi of ancient Mesopotamia, in around 1700 BC, is known to have introduced a code in which builders, innkeepers, or farmers were put to death if their negligence caused the death of others or major inconvenience to local community. So we see a hint of social responsibility has emerged historically. It is not today. So if you see another example, in 1622, disgruntled shareholders in the Dutch East India Company are said to have started issuing pamphlets complaining about management secrecy and self-enrichment. So this is about corporate governance. So broadly, if you see that CSR, corporate social responsibility, is not something we will be discussing about all these aspects. It's not something to do with the community externally, but it is also about how do you do your business. What is the process of doing your business? What is the process you earn your profit? And govern that particular process. So in 1622, even this Dutch East India Company, there is a kind of dialogue, there is a discussion about corporate governance. We see cornerstone of conceptual framework was set during Industrial Revolution. As we know that during Industrial Revolution there was a kind of you know, enlarging, gap between the worker class and the owner class. And at that point of time, this corporate social responsibility and taking care of the labor class was more of a strategy to manage the pressure and manage the risk. So it was a kind of safety valve tactics. So at that point of time, it was more reactive, so that there is no labor grievance, there is no problem with the labor, so that at some point of time, initially definitely it was not there. Then probably all the industrialists, all the owners, they realize that unless and until we keep the labor force at a certain level of comfort level, then definitely it will actually create problem for the owners and create problem to make profit. So that at some point of, and also there might be some the grievances of the laborers, and that kind that might actually get into aggressive movements from the labor class. So that it's better to do something for them, better to do some labor welfare for them, so that whenever the pressure is built up, that would be released through these programs, so that you can manage the labor class in a better way. So this was a kind of different ways of looking at something non-financial performance of the business, non-financial responsibilities of the business. But at the same time, we see that many of these financial performances were actually aimed at ultimately financial gain, and some of the non-financial performances or non-financial responsibilities were looked at much a broader perspective. Now, these perspectives have changed. Now, two of these very famous quotes are in front of you. Peter Drucker, who later actually was an advocate of corporate social responsibility, he had theories on that. What he once said is that corporate social responsibility is a dangerous distortion of business principles. So he has gone ahead saying that if you find an executive who wants to take on social responsibilities, fire him fast. So here, at some point of time, they said that corporate social responsibility is dangerous distortion of business principle. On the other hand, we know about Milton Friedman. So he is another person who said that the business of business is to do business. The business should not do anything more than business or anything other than business. So that what he is saying, there is one and only one social responsibility of business: to use its resources and engage in activities designed to increase its profit, so long as it stays within the rules of the game, which is to say, engages in open and free competition without deception or fraud. So if you see that, this particular frame of mind or this particular perspective which is reflected in both the quotations, they're saying that the business of business is to do business, and the purpose of business is doing profit. And the biggest social responsibility a business should have is to make profit. To make profit, to generate income, and to generate employment. And that is the purpose of business. They should not indulge in something more or other than business. That is the kind of perspective we see. Now, at the same time, we see that, we know all about the Ford company, the Ford Motor Company. So the William Clay Ford Jr., what is he saying? I believe very strongly that corporations could and should be a major force for resolving social and environmental concerns in the 21st century. As chairman of one of the world's largest corporations, I am in a unique position to be a catalyst for change. So what is he saying? Business has a much broader responsibility, a much broader constituency, and actually it's a much bigger force which might resolve social and environmental concerns. So, if you see the scope of a business performance is actually now much broader than only gaining profit and generating income and employment. So what is he saying? That business could be instrumental to resolve much broader social and economic issues, so that and he is saying that he, as a powerful businessman, is in a position to catalyze those kind of changes. So you see that different perspective. What we are trying to do here is that we are trying to actually go through our different thoughts of different persons and try to see that, what are the different perspectives around CSR, corporate social responsibilities. And I'm not, this is nothing that, happened then, and, it has progressed to certain level. So at that point of time, it used to be thought as this, and at this point of time, it has evolved to that. All these thoughts you will find even now in the contemporary world. Many people will still say that, business is the business of business is to do business. Many people will say that no, business should actually, the purpose of business is not to doing only generating profit or employment and income. They have a much broader responsibility. So these thoughts coexist, but we can see that majority, we can see a kind of concentration of thoughts are actually gathering around some of the perspectives, and we'll have to understand that, at this point of time, how it has evolved to a kind of a broader framework of corporate social responsibility. Now, if you go through some more thoughts, in 1979, Carroll, he is another very, very, famous author of business management, and at the same time who has discussed a lot about corporate social responsibility. So Carroll, what thought process was that he found have responsibilities to societies, including economic, legal, ethical, and discretionary. By discretionary, it is more of they used to mean more philanthropic activities. So that you see that what they are saying, that it includes economic, legal, ethical. So definitely we can understand economic and legal, because those are the core things any business will be doing. He has gone ahead talking about ethical responsibilities, and then discretionary or philanthropic responsibilities. So if you take one more example, social contract. This is actually another school of thought emerged during this period, 1982, 1999. In this, they are saying that there is a tacit social contract between the firm and society, so that when a firm or a business is operating in a particular society, there is a social contract between the society and the business, because the business is using a lot of resources and existing in the social fabric, and so that as they are taking, there will be a kind of contractual agreement that they will also be reciprocally giving something to the society. And that is the kind of societal contract we talk about. The contract bestows certain rights in exchange for certain responsibilities, right? So this is a kind of social contract perspective. Then we see a stakeholder perspective. So again, Freeman during 1984, and if you see that, when I am actually going through all these quotations, it is not that in a certain particular period of time there was a certain thought and then it graduated or it progressed to something else. It's not like that. During the same point of time, different visionaries, they have different kind of thoughts, and we'll have to try to understand. And again, in these kind of cases, it's not always 2 + 2 = 4. There is nothing in black and white. There is nothing right or wrong. So we'll have to say that, and understand that what we believe in, what should be our perspective in this particular context at this point of time. Now the stakeholder theory, what they're saying, a stakeholder is any group or individual who can affect or is affected by the achievement of an organization's purpose, argues that it is the company's strategic interest to respect the interest of all its stakeholders. Another aspect of stakeholder theory, what they're saying is that stakeholders' interests are not adverse to the shareholders' interest, at least in long term. So that, if you talk about who are the stakeholders, you can talk about your community, you can talk about your suppliers, you can talk about the customers. So the community interest, the customers' interest, the suppliers' interest, they are not really adverse to the shareholders' interest. So that if you can take care of your stakeholder interest, probably that in long term at least will add value to your shareholders' interest. So that is the kind of stakeholder theory, that is the kind of frame of there's a school of thought, stakeholder theory has emerged. Now, at this point of time, if you actually, I mean, we can have a long discussion on, many more theories, many more frameworks, and many more thoughts. But at this point of time, what we see, a more wider context of responsibility that has emerged. The EU Commission, the way it has framed is a concept whereby companies integrate social, environmental concerns in their business operations and in the interaction with their stakeholder on a voluntary basis. So if you see that, what they have tried to do is that they have tried to frame a more comprehensive definition of corporate social responsibility. In that, what we are talking about, a concept whereby companies integrate, so that company is integrating social and environmental concerns in the business strategy itself, in their business operations, and in their interaction with their stakeholders on a voluntary basis. So voluntary, the key word here, one of the key words is the voluntary basis. So it is not mandated by anybody, it is not regulated by government, it is not that for the sake of compliance they will have to do something. It is because they voluntarily they thought that this is actually a better strategy to operate within this particular context, so that they will integrate the social and environmental concerns. The another process was from another definition from WBCSD, World Business Council for Sustainable Development. They are saying CSR is the private sector contribution to sustainable development. Very simple, but it's a very broad definition. What it is saying, CSR is a very short, but if you see the implication is very, very wide. CSR is the private sector contribution to sustainable development. So when we talk about development, it is not about doing profit, it is not about doing income, it is not about how do you sell your product and services, but at the same time it has to be a sustainable development, it has to be an inclusive development, and probably the implication, the implied meaning in this is also that the sustainability is not about the externalities, not about the society and the community and people outside the business, but for sustainability of business also it is imperative that we contribute to sustainability of the development, the broader development. So they are saying CSR is a private sector contribution to sustainable development. Now, this is what we see that different at different time, different visionaries, they frame different kind of thoughts. They share different kind of thoughts and different perspectives, and we see that through these thoughts and perspective, today the kind of CSR framework has emerged. So now, we need to understand that nothing is irrelevant here. First of all, would we really believe that primary business of a business is to do business? Definitely, I think all of us will agree that if a business is not doing profit, if a business is not a viable business, definitely that business probably is a socially irresponsible business. Yeah. Second thing is that, do you believe that stakeholders are important, and stakeholder interest should be taken care of while we are doing business? Definitely, I think none of us will be disagreeing on that. If we believe that as we are coexisting with the communities and the societies and the customers and the people, there is a kind of implied contract between the society, the surrounding, the environment, and the business. Yeah, definitely there is a reciprocal responsibilities and rights between the societies and the businesses, so that once we'll have to maintain the balance that interest of both of us. It should be a common interest, it should not be a conflicting interest. So I think that those are the things none of us will actually disagree on, right? So what I see is that, if we try to see that, then what is corporate social responsibility we talk about? And as I said initially that, I believe in the term of business responsibility. So that as a business, what are the responsibilities you have, and you do it in a proper manner. The first question I would ask that, what was the process? How did you earn profit? How did you do your business, right? It is not about how do you spend your money, how do you spend your profit or a particular portion of the profit. For example, if a business is doing an unfair business, they have unfair labor practices, they are polluting the environment, they are not offering good products and services, so that they are not demonstrating stewardship of product and services, and out of that, after doing this unfair process, after doing that kind of business, they are earning a lot of profit. And if they spend that profit for a good thing, or probably running a school or running a hospital or do some kind of other community welfare activities, do you think that that particular business is a responsible business? So that I would say that the first thing is that how do you do your business? That is important. What kind of impact you are creating, in the society, and then there comes how do you share your profit? How do you actually share your profit and surplus with the wider stakeholders and the wider community? Probably that comes later, but the first thing is that how do you do your business? How do you govern your business? So I would personally prefer the term business responsibility, but at the same time corporate social responsibility is widely known term. This is something a very popular, commonly known term. So that is why probably we will continue using the term CSR, but at the same time the core value in the whole segment, we'll have to see that it is about more business responsibility than anything else. Now, today we'll go a little bit of theoretical, because we need to have little bit of clarity of thought. We need to have some kind of logical. We'll have to have some kind of logical conviction about the particular school of knowledge on CSR. So that is why today we'll probably have a little bit of theories, and I promise that from next day onward we will try to get into more practical aspects of CSR. But I thought that before getting into the practical aspects of CSR and in implementation strategies, management strategies, etc., we should have some kind of thought clarity. So there are 4 different schools which explain CSR. These schools actually try to justify more that why CSR is so important, why CSR has to be done. The first theory, the school of theory, is instrumental theory. So what they are saying is that, as you can understand from the terminology, that CSR is a tool to achieve economic objectives. So that you do something for the community, you do something for your stakeholders, but ultimately there is a financial or economic return of CSR. That is why you do. The second way of looking at CSR is a political. It's very interesting, the political view of CSR. Now what it is saying, some people are arguing that now corporate has a legitimate right to have more social influence, what was not there. So that if you take Indian example, or first of all, if you try to understand that what is the traditional role of corporate vis-a-vis the government, vis-a-vis the social sector, right? So development is a common field between government, social sector, and the corporate, right? And the market rather. Now, it was primary responsibility, if you see, was the government of people's development. Whom would we say that, okay, these roads are bad in this town, or so many people are actually starving in this country, malnourished population is so high, so many people are illiterate. we'll definitely not actually at this point of time go and say that all businesses are bad in this country, that is why it is happening. We'll say that this government is not, Indian government is not working, that is why it is not working. So that whom would we hold accountable for development? Primarily it is government. But when we are legitimizing the corporate or the market's role in development, what we are trying to do is that actually we are paving a way of the business. This is an argument, this is what, it's not my view. This is under the political, view, what the way people look at CSR. When we are actually legitimizing corporates' responsibility or rights to influence development, what we are trying to do is that we are actually making our way to some extent in some government role or probably the social sector role. So that, the corporates are becoming more and more powerful through the route of development. They actually are encroaching in the areas of governance and the social sector. So that is another point of view, and that is something very, very interesting point of view. And, definitely you all should actually, agree that the corporates are now more powerful than ever it was, right? Especially if you look at the Indian situation with the Companies Act, actually we are legitimizing corporates' role in the social sector, and some way we are sharing some of the developmental responsibility with the corporate sector and say that these are the things you must do. Whatever the business you are doing, you must actually do that. So that this is a another very interesting way of looking at corporate social responsibility. The third angle is integrative angle. So what they are saying, business depends on society, and you will have to integrate social demands in your business. So that it's a kind of give and take. You are dependent on the society, so you will have to be responsive to the social demands. Now, ethical point of view, they are saying, whether there is a political gain, whether there is an instrumental gain or financial or economic gain or not, whether you are dependent or not, above and beyond that, ethically you are responsible. You have some ethical obligation. Each corporate has some ethical obligation. So these four schools, they argue that CSR is important because of these particular logics. Now we'll get into try to understand it a little more. So, so that is why when we start working on corporate social responsibility, in our mind we'll have to understand all of these things. I mean, again, I'm saying that in this, whether it is instrumental, I believe in instrumental explanations or political explanations or integrative or ethical, that's immaterial. What we need to do is that we'll have to have a very transparent view about CSR. First of all, we should be convinced that why we are doing CSR. Is it something only because the government has said, or is it something it makes sense? Actually, it is something, whether it is an instrumental role or political role, it's also a role of a particular business. So that is why we need to understand these viewpoints a little more. Now, very quickly, I will get it, go through this. I will discuss, another half an hour. So last 15 minutes, we will have the question answer session. So, if you look at the instrumental theories, so I'm not reading everything. I'm not actually explaining all of these points. So I'm giving you the broad points here. One is that maximize the shareholders' value. Instrumental, definitely, one point you will have to see that, the shareholders has actually invested money for doing what? Primarily to make profit. So that ultimately today or tomorrow, are they getting a better financial benefit or financial return out of your CSR activities? Is there any financial implication of CSR activities positively to the shareholders' value? The second angle, what they look at is the strategies for achieving competitive advantage. So by doing CSR, do you have any competitive advantage? social investment in competitive context, natural resource-based view of the farm and its dynamic capabilities. Sometimes we see that, we reach out to the unreached population through CSR activities, so that, in the bottom of the pyramid, what we call is the bottom of the pyramid, this is the biggest market segment and biggest resource, what we, we untapped market, and through corporate social responsibility, can we actually reach out to that? In many cases, we talk about branding. In many cases, we talk about marketing through right kind of social activities. Though under the Companies Act, these are not considered as CSR, but broadly, as per the theoretical framework or as per the global framework, outside India, beyond the Act, actually those are all business responsibility, aspects. So that the third, point what we see is that cause-related marketing. Enhance company revenues and sales. We'll actually have more discussion on that. So, whether actually in your marketing effort, your corporate social responsibility has a particular contribution or particular value addition to do. So, in the instrumental theory, the major three aspects, what I would say, the approaches is that, first of all, maximize shareholders' value, achieving competitive advantages, and better, more effective marketing. Now, in the political aspect, what we see that corporate constitutionalism. Now, as I discussed about that by doing CSR, the corporates might be gaining more and more power in the social and political fabric. Integrative social contract, as we have already discussed, and the third angle, what again very commonly used, is corporate citizenship. As any other individuals, corporate legally is actually an individual. It is considered as an individual, so that the corporate has certain responsibilities toward the state, where it is living in. So that as a responsible citizen, like each of us have some responsibility to the state, the corporate has some responsibility to the state. So this is corporate citizenship. Now, in integrative theories, what are the major aspects? Issue management, so that it's more of a risk mitigation. There are social and political issues, so you'll have to address those, so that better you integrate that particular strategy in your business strategy. Otherwise, you'll have trouble. So that by addressing those issues, you are actually strengthening your business strategy. Principle of public responsibility. So it stresses on public process, not personal morality view. Law and the existing public policy processes are taken as reference for social performance, as you can understand. Stakeholder management, we have already discussed. Corporate social performance. This is what they are talking about, a search for social legitimacy, so that socially people look at you that this is a good business. They have a kind of value attachment to the company, and it's a kind of more amicable coexistence, so that you are a good performer socially. You are a good boy, right? You are a good company. Yeah. So that is a kind of status you enjoy. Now, ethical theories. In ethical theory, actually, they are not justifying, financially or politically or anywhere. They are not trying to justify that there is a particular return. They are saying that if there is a return or not, ethically you are responsible to do something. Whether it is gainful for you particularly or not, but you should do something. You should do something. So what they are talking about, stakeholder normative theory, it's a normative theory. There is a norm that, as a norm, you will have to consider fiduciary duties towards stakeholders of the farm. This requires some moral theories. Universal right based on human rights, so that, whether what kind of business, whether there is a return or not, financial return or whatever return or not, you will have to respect human rights, labor rights, environment. This is something beyond any return, so that you will have to do that. So this is a kind of ethical responsibility for any business. Stakeholder management we discussed. Again, stakeholders management and some of the aspects are actually omnipresence in all the views. what they're saying is that you cannot ignore your stakeholders. So, you'll have to integrate social, environmental, economic consideration, and, to make balanced judgment for the long term, so that, you cannot ignore that. So, it's more or less you're saying that, if you are very rich, you are doing very well, but, you are working in a very, very poor surrounding, your community is very poor. There is an ethical responsibility that you should do something, whether you get some financial return or not, right? And then common good, oriented toward a common good of society. So, why do you exist? If you are not creating a common good, you must do something good. So these are kind of ethical theories. So that what we saw that there are 4 ways of looking at CSR. 4 ways actually CSR is being explained. One, that we try to see that instrumental, that there is a specific return, financial return to the business. That is the way. Second, we are looking at the political angle. These explanations try to say that by CSR actually corporates are getting more and more powerful in the avenues where actually traditionally they were not supposed to play a role in development, probably some in more influence in the governance, much more influence in the society. Then we are talking about integrative. It is very aligned with more as the instrumental thing, so that as a business strategy you are doing, it's a part of the business strategy itself. We integrate the strategies with your business strategy. Then the 4th part is ethical, whether it is instrumentally meaningful, politically meaningful, or, it is a part of a business strategy you must do because you should do. So those are the ethical obligations. So till now, what we try to do, we try to reflect on some of the, perspectives and thought process of different visionaries, and try to see that how different, theories, they have looked at corporate social responsibility, and what are the kind of perspectives and some of the common elements in all of these thoughts, and try to see that how today the perspective of CSR has emerged. Second thing, what we try to understand, that what are the different ways, different lenses we look through to see corporate social responsibility, or to explain corporate social responsibility. And now what we'll do is that this is again this particular slide. When you will get the slide, probably you just look at the slide. What I have tried to do is I have got some of the concepts like corporate social responsibility, social responsiveness, social performance, and all these things. And we have given a kind of bibliography that, who are the authors, who are the thought leaders who have discussed about that. So that, if you want to do a kind of further reading, probably you can go through that and you can do the further reading and try to see that, how the concept has emerged. But, what we have discussed till now, that is the gist of all these theories and, all these thought processes. Now, this is a difficult slide because I know that you will have a little bit of difficulties to read this, but we had to actually put a lot of things in one slide, so that I would say that please bear with us. So in this particular thing, again, take your time to go through that, but I will actually go through the CSR debate part. Now what we have done is that we have seen that in different phases, like 1950s to 60s, in this decade, next decade, up to 2000 and above, how these debates have evolved, right? So that if you go to the second row, the first row is talking about, how the different authors have talked about that, what are the conceptual framework and all these things. But the core debate you will find in the second row. So we will go through the second row first. So in 1950s and 60s, you see broadly, again, I would mention that all the thoughts are coexisting. Even in 1950s, 60s, even before that, many people are talking about very modern contemporary theories of CSR. But if you see, what was the main focus, most of the people who they are talking about and what was the kind of trend at that point of time, that we will actually find in the second row. So 1950s, 60s, what we are talking about focused on the idea of corporate managers as public trustees. Even in India, we see that before that actually we had the Gandhian philosophy of trusteeship. The ideas of balancing competing claims to corporate resources and the acceptance of philanthropy as a manifestation of business support of good cause. So there was a kind of trend of one is a trusteeship. Trusteeship is a much broader idea, but many businesses at that point of time, what they used to do, and in India also we see that there are so many businesses at that point of time also they have done a lot of philanthropy. So they have earned profit, and at the same time it was not about doing good business. It was all about that if you are earning profit as a charity, as philanthropy, might be religious purpose, non-religious purpose, they have done many things. Many people have done work for poor people, many people have constructed temples, many other things. Now next phase, the debate moves on to the function of companies in society's comments. So that then they are talking about, okay, this particular company, we started having the discussion that the companies are operating in a particular social environment, so that what is the kind of reciprocal relationship between the society and the company. Gradually it comes to the if you look at the box between 1970s and 1980, the corporate elements was added to CSR, the economic approach to CSR was developed. Now at this point of time, before that, if you see, there's a distinct difference. Before that, we are not talking about any financial benefit or financial implication of CSR. In 70, the period of 70 to 80, actually people started talking about there are some financial implications of CSR. More particularly, there is financial benefit if you do CSR. Those kind of thought processes initiated during this particular time. Then between 1980s to 1990, if you get into that, complementary themes to CSR such as business ethics, stakeholder theory gaining traction. So that at one point of time we saw it in the instrumental theory and the political theory and the integrated theory. Those are the things at this point of time were emerging. So we are talking about stakeholder management, we're talking about ethics. So, but at that point of time we are also talking about the financial benefit of corporate social responsibility. And still we consider that whether there is a short term and long term, there is a very strong point of debate whether there is a short term and long term return to the business by doing CSR. Now in 90s and 2000, between that, what we are seeing, that greater understanding of CSR and more nuanced arguments on sustainability, business ethics, green marketing, etc. There is a new school, especially from American school. There's a new discourse started on sustainability, and a lot of focus of sustainability is on environmental sustainability. It is not about. So that they are saying that if you want to do a kind of sustainable market, then definitely you will have to do a green business, how to take care of the environment. At the same time, they are also to some extent talking about how to sustain the market, so that how do you actually work with the society. But main focus, as I understand, it was on environmental sustainability and ecological sustainability. Now post 2000. And now, what are the discussions we are having? We are having, again, it is that all these things, if you see in practice, we have philanthropy. In practice, we have a few activities which are actually, we can call it the instrumental CSR, which is actually, giving financial gain. We are having, stakeholder management. All these things are coexisting in the market. But if you see a new thought process, a focus was shifted to sustainability and shared value. So at this point of time, the main focus is by doing CSR, and globally if you look at, definitely when we will discuss about the Companies Act, The Companies Act has a little bit of narrower perspective than this, but by doing this, by the term business responsibility, we see that what value you are creating for the society. It is not that particular product or the service, but what kind of value you are creating for the society. Now, very quickly we'll go to some of the definitions for better understanding. Again I would say that please go through this properly. So in CSR, we see that for better understanding and for classifications, we have divided CSR activities in 4 different kind of CSR. One is philanthropic, second is risk mitigation, third is strategic, and fourth is structural. Philanthropic, as you can understand, the definition is altruistic, so that I want to do something social good, that is why I am doing. It might be financial or in kind donation to some organizations, checkbook philanthropy. I am not expecting much return out of that, and in most of the cases philanthropy is not very accountable act, so that I also don't, the happiness comes from giving, not to measuring the impact of giving. That is a kind of broad trend, but definitely there are many philanthropists who also measure the impact. I would not disrespect them, but mainly the trend is that I am happy to give, not to say that by that what has happened. Now the risk mitigation, you can always understand, it's 2 aspects. One is that if you see that there is a social risk, there are environmental risks, around your company, especially issues like land acquisition issues. If you have a manufacturing company, then definitely in and around your companies, the communities, in the community, you see that different kind of dissatisfaction, and then how do you really mitigate that? That is one part, and second part is that how do you comply with the legal system. That is broadly what risk mitigation CSR, what we talk about. Now the strategic CSR is very interesting. That is more or less that the instrumental theory what explains. In that strategic CSR, we see that embedded in the business strategy and result in improving companies' relative cost and price proposition. So that you are doing some social activity. By doing that, you are actually improving companies' relative cost or price position. So that it's a mutual win-win situation, it's a mutual benefit situation. One good example is HUL Shakti Amma. So I will actually get this discussion a little more. So let us go to the structural CSR. Now structural CSR is that particular business exists to create some value. One could be that particular, one could be, if you see that iodized salt. If you are producing iodized salt, actually the iodized salt by that product, we are trying to address the issue of iodine deficiency. So that you want to create a value, resolve a social problem, and that is why you are doing a particular business. And for that to sustain the business, you will have to earn profit. So first of all, it is a what is we are now talking about, that what kind of shared value you are creating. So how do you, the business by itself is oriented toward value, and those are the structure. So it is by structure the particular business is meant for creating value. Another example, Tiger Biscuit Britannia. So actually the purpose is said that it is to address the issues of malnutrition in children. So that there's a lot of nutrients they have mixed with that biscuit, and they have worked with the NGOs to market that in a particular segment of the community. So that through that, what they wanted to do, at least the way they say is that we want to address the issue of malnutrition in that particular segment. So this is a totally value-oriented business. The business is meant for shared value, to create shared value. Now, as I said that I will get into a little more discussion on the structural CSR. In structural CSR, I would actually segment, I will divide it in 2 segments. One is market-driven and one is corporate-driven. In market-driven, we see, cause-related marketing. Again, these are to have a better understanding and clear understanding. That is why we are dividing all this, so that that what are the activities can be done, what kind of social implication and business implication can be achieved through that. Now, cause-related marketing, what it is, donations linked to sales or other consumer actions. So that, the ITC donates money on sales or stationaries. What they are saying is that, what do they call it? The copy, the ITC, the books they create, they manufacture. Behind that, they write that, if you buy 4 books or 4, these copies, then 1 rupee will donate for some social purpose. So that what they are doing is that they are attaching a value to the sales. So that if you are actually, and even so there are some medicine companies on the medicine, they write that, if you are buying that, a portion of our profit will go for some social cause. So that what you are trying to do, you are doing a cause related marketing, so that you are adding some value for the customers, social value for the customers, so that they will differentiate between your product and other products, because your product is adding some social value the other products are not adding. Sasha Matchbox, this is long time back, actually one fair trade organization, they used to produce a matchbox which is a child labor free matchbox, and they used to sell the matchbox with that social value added, that these box, if you buy, this is a child labor free matchbox. So definitely if you go to the market and see that there are 2 sets of matchbox, probably you are ready to pay 50 paisa more for that child labor free matchbox, knowing that these matchbox industries and cracker industries, there are a lot of exploitation of child labor. So as a responsible citizen, probably you will opt for paying little more even, but to buy the child labor free matchboxes. So these are cause related marketing. So you are marketing your product which is offering some social value to the customers. Corporate social marketing, corporate campaigns launches campaign for behavior. Sorry, there is a little bit of mistake in the sentence. It is corporate launches campaign for behavior change in collaboration with other corporates and or NGOs. Good example is create demand for product and services, HUL hand wash campaign. So if you see that this particular marketing, what they are doing is that they are actually doing a social campaign on hand wash, sanitation, right? And this HUL has a product, Lifebuoy hand wash soaps. So what they are doing is that creating a demand. Definitely it's a great social value they create, because there are so many health issues are related to that, so that they are addressing that issue. But at the same time, what happens is that there is attraction of their own product to that. So it's a kind of what we call it corporate social marketing. So, and HUL actually did it in partnership with many NGOs, many other organizations, UN bodies, so that it was a mass campaign for hand wash, so that it created a demand for them. So when the demand is created, that's a very positive side. That means the community is sensitized and the community actually has changed their behavior. That is why they are demanding for the product, right? It's a very, very good social indicator of behavior change. Now the third thing is social network marketing. In this, what happens? Businesses use social network to reach out to BOP market segment, HUL Shakti Amma project. So in this particular case, what they are doing is that the business is partnering with a set of social network, social organization, a network of social organization. In this case, HUL had partnered with SHGs, and through the SHGs, they reached out to the untapped market and they reduced the cost of in their supply chain, and directly access to those households with their consumer goods. So what happens is that the company has a better access, the company has a better demand. At the same time, the SHGs and the member of SHGs, the Shakti Ammas, they are actually having a financial benefit, and also these Shakti Ammas, reportedly, it is not only financial benefit, they gained social status also in the community. So that what you are trying to do, again, it's a strategic CSR, as I said, it's a win-win situation. It's a win-win situation for the community, because they have already curtailed a lot of cost in the supply chain. You are getting products in a proper price. Second thing is that, and availability is also there. You are getting it almost at household level. Second thing is that the group of The SHG members, the Shaktiyamas, they are also gaining financially, and they are also actually gaining a social status. Third, the business is also gaining a, having a better market access. So this is what the third part, the social network marketing. Now, structural CSR, corporate driven. This trend, what is not the marketing side, it is not the forward linkages, it is the backward linkage and the process. Conducting discretionary business practices that support social causes. It is not about the marketing. Responsible sourcing you are doing, energy efficient process and low emission. So by doing that, you are doing your corporate social responsibility. Again, you might say that, these are not allowed in CSR Act, in the Companies Act. But I am saying at the broader sense, it is the Companies Act has a very narrow perspective. Otherwise, these are actually good CSR activities where one side, the business is actually gaining financially and the community is gaining reciprocally. So the perspective what emerges today, we see that business responsibility is not only doing something external to the business at the community level, but it has responsibilities economically. In economic responsibility, if you see that we are talking about combating bribery and corruption, investing infrastructure, creating jobs, contributing to the local economy, generating sales and profits, driving innovations. Societal responsibility, if you see on the left, right hand side, the pink pink segment, is that good working conditions, complying with the law, good community relations, respecting human rights, ensuring product safety, treating suppliers fairly. Environmental concerns, we see that minimizing waste and emissions, using energy and resource efficiently, protecting biodiversity, using environmentally sound material energy, minimizing use of hazardous substances. So that when we talk about responsible business, we talk about the business who took responsibility in terms of economic responsibility, societal responsibility and environmental responsibility. It is not about doing something in the community only. It is not only external to the business, it is also internal to the business. It is about the process of the business, more about the process of the business, how do you do the business, and about the product and services of the business. So that is the broad concept of corporate social responsibility. When we'll discuss about the Companies Act, we'll try to understand the Companies Act in this particular context. So, with this particular discussion, I will end today's discussion, and I will see if there is any question if you have to ask. And today, as we planned, we said that we'll have a flexible plan. So today I will not get into the business case of CSR, so that we can have a proper discussion, and this is the grounding we should have, that a proper understanding on CSR, developing a perspective of CSR. It is not about, again, it is not about doing something external to your business. It is not about compliance, only compliance with the Companies Act. It is about doing a good business, responsible business. So the National Voluntary Guideline, as I had mentioned sometimes, that in 2009, Ministry of Corporate Affairs had launched, published the National Voluntary Guideline. At that point of time, the belief, as I was also part of that as an advisor to the committee, the belief was that it should be first voluntary. That's why we say it is a National Voluntary Guideline, and it is not only doing something external to the community and which is linked with your business. It is more about doing a good business, responsible business, and that was the perspective at that point of time. In that, what we discussed, if you see all these small balloons, ethics, if you say the top one, ethics, transparency, accountability, product lifecycle sustainability, employee well-being, stakeholder engagement, human right, environment, policy advocacy, inclusive growth, customer care and value. So, all these principles, actually there are all these 9 principles we developed for this National Voluntary Guidelines, and we said that these principles will guide a business to be responsible business. So the point today we need to see, if we agree on that, that actually when we talk about corporate social responsibility, it is not only doing some philanthropic work, it is not only doing something, which is linked with your business, it is something irrelevant for your business, doing some work in the community, but it is also it is about doing a good responsible business. So what the Companies Act is saying, that is the provision of the Companies Act, but the perspective of CSR is this. Yeah. With that, I will end here, and I will see that if there is any question, so that I can actually take those questions one by one. And if you have not given the questions, if you want to give the questions right now, if you please ask questions, so I can actually read out your question and try to answer your questions. Okay. Somebody is asking, who is asking that? How do I know? Okay, so some people are saying we should have a 5 to 10 minutes break. Somebody is saying 15 minutes break after 1 hour. So I would say, okay, let us decide that we will have 10 minutes break after 1 hour. Or probably we should actually have the break after 50 minutes, because we will have another 45 minutes of session, and the last 15 minutes every day we should reserve for question and answer. So that with all your consent, I'm saying that after 50 minutes we will have a break for 10 minutes, then we will have 40 minutes of session and 15 minutes of question answer. So somebody is asking, would that part of module 4? I'm not sure what you are asking about. Will we be covering frameworks of CSR? Yeah, we'll be covering some frameworks of CSR. Somebody is saying we can actually stretch it. So most of the people are saying that we should have 5 to 10 minutes of break. So I'll go by that. Can you please give some more examples of instrumental theories approaches? As I said, that instrumental theory, as I have already discussed about the structural CSR, those are actually the examples of instrumental theory. That is the way you look at CSR. So that, one example from ITC right now, what comes to my mind, probably this program where actually these are ITC, they used to call it ITC hubs. They used to have these computer hubs in the communities, and what they used to do is that they strengthen their sourcing network through these hubs. And what they did is that, and they also empowered these farmers, so that from these hubs, what they can do is they can come to know about more market information, what is the kind of price going on and what kind of demand is there and all these kind of things. And at the same time, ITC had a very good resource network, very good sourcing network, so that they can actually get better sources from the farmers. So that is one good example of ITC at this point of time. Otherwise, I have discussed a few more examples in when I was discussing the instrumental CSR, the structural CSR, sorry, the strategic CSR. Do we get this PPT as a course material? Yes, you will get the PPT, definitely. It would be posted on CII, mycii.in, and you will get this. And also, when we will develop the social media, probably all of these materials will post on the social media, so you can download this and use these PPTs and whatever the materials we'll be sharing. To ask what extent stakeholders can be involved in CSR activities. I will have a specific session on, or part of the session I will discuss on the stakeholder engagement, so that probably I can address those issues during that discussion. Can we get a copy of this PPT? Yes, of course you can. What is the greatest motivation factor for CSR activities? That's a very, very good and tough question. Now, the first of all, I think personally is that the greatest motivation is doing a good business, and what we see is that the businesses which are not based on fair principles, they are not sustainable businesses. So if you see that if you want to do a fair business or a sustainable business, then you will have to do the CSR. Definitely, I don't see that, compliance is a good motivation for doing CSR. I don't see the risks in the community or somewhere else is a good motivation. Those are actually more reactive approaches than proactive approaches. So what we see is that, first of all, if we create a value orientation, in most of the cases, we have a kind of alienation from the product and services, the ultimate goal of that business. Like, if you talk about, say, Google, if you think about Google, you see that Google as a business, they are meant for creating some value. Yeah. To create that particular value, they do a lot of other things, right? So that if we can have that motivation, if we can in a business, if we have that kind of value orientation and then have that value orientation across the segments of the business, then probably that will lead to doing, we'll get a better motivation to do CSR. Again, by CSR, I'm not talking about only doing something charity, philanthropy or risk mitigation in the community. I am saying doing a responsible business. How do we audit CSR activities? We will have a discussion again about the audit evaluation of CSR activities. So I can address this particular question. Then, how many companies like HUL have independent NGOs auditing them so that these can be reportable in the annual reports? Does the company's act prescribe any norm of audit for CSR activities done, or is it okay for voluntary self-disclosure, but it disclosure to be audited? That's again another very good question. No, there is no mandate. We'll have a detailed discussion on the Companies Act. There is no mandate that it has to be audited by an external agency, but monitoring of the program, monitoring and evaluations of the program, what you are doing, that you will have to do, and you will have to disclose that, what kind of monitoring mechanism you have. But the report you are publishing and the statement you are giving, is there any provision of auditing particularly for this purpose? No. It would be a part of your general auditing definitely as a company, but there is no separate CSR auditing is prescribed under the Companies Act. Now, this is a very, very pertinent question, because as I say that, how do you know that what do I say, whether I do that or not, right? So that, thousands of companies will be posting their reports on the websites. Now, first of all, I believe is that we should not get into a policing, because this is primarily, it should be a voluntary, it should make sense for your business. That's why you should do that, so that, why I should go and see that, whether you are doing it or not. You should better do that, because, otherwise you cannot do a good business. So, that should be the orientation first. Second thing is that in this particular context of Companies Act, I totally agree with you, because it is a regulated thing. It is not a voluntary thing at all. And you are regulated, you are actually imposed now. You will have to disclose your report. And somebody should actually look at the reports, but definitely I would say that I will not prefer the government to get into that role. Then, as you can understand, it will be not a really, really good condition, what I believe at least. But then there should be some other mechanism where the third party, there is a provision. If you want as a business, you can go for a third party accreditation or validation of your report, so that you have better credibility. Now, from CSO partners and CII, as I was mentioning in the beginning, that we are launching a platform. So one particular service what we are trying to develop and offer is that for validation of report to validate that what do we say, we do that. Mr. R. Selvaraj is asking, sir, what is the background in which Section 135 of Companies Act was inserted towards CSR? I will have a discussion when I will be discussing about the Companies Act, so that please keep patience. We'll be having a more specific, more detailed discussion on the Companies Act. You can mention the name Madhu Raghunath. Sorry, this is Mr. Madhu Raghunath. Was asking these questions about the audit, and the previous question what I was talking about. Thank you, Mr. Madhu. Mr. Abuzar Anas Khan is asking, hi, couple of laws would ask for mandatory work apart from CSR, like mining industry has to take care of surrounding environment. How this overlap is taken in CSR? As a CSR executive, what other laws do you suggest? Say CSR, first of all, your compliance with laws are compliance issues. Those are the minimum norms what you will have to abide by in a particular land of law. CSR is much more and beyond that, compliance issues. So that I would say that there are health and safety norms, there are environmental norms, there are labor laws. So those are the basic legislative framework. Within that you will have to operate and you will have to comply with. But definitely that is not CSR. That is, those are the minimum legal obligations you have. CSR is much beyond that. So that when you are talking about a CSR manager, I would really doubt whether they should get into that and try to see whether legally you are complying with all these norms or not. That probably a health and safety officer or the environmental, the people in the environmental department, they should get into that and try to see. The CSR is actually a little much more than that. It is not only the compliance with those minimum obligations prescribed by the law. Yeah, Mr. Gautam Babu, this is ITC e-Chopal. Thank you for reminding me. The audit question is important for corporates. Please do answer that question, sir. I have asked this. My name is Madhu Raghunath. No, I answered that. As I said, the Companies Act does not prescribe the audit of the report. The Companies Act is saying that you will have to mention in your policy. Again, we will be discussing that when I will be discussing on the Companies Act, that it is prescribing that you will have to say, mention about your monitoring mechanism and evaluation mechanism. How do you do your monitoring and evaluation? But is there any impact evaluation, or do you actually, is there any provision or posting the monitoring report itself? No. Second thing is that prescribing your report has to be audited, what you are publishing? No. But as it is a part of your annual report, as a general audit, it should be a part of your general audit. But there is no separate CSR audit is prescribed by the Companies Act. Can you see the questions posted by others? I will ask the technical guys if you can actually see that. I don't know exactly. Can you give examples for socially responsible process? Actually, I have given so many examples in the course. Again, we will be discussing a lot of other examples also. People confuse CSR and social accountability after today's session. It seems CSR is wider and covers the social accountability also. While there is a certification for social accountability 8,000 through approved bodies, is there any certification for CSR? I mean, those are again, those we'll be discussing, but just to answer the immediate answer to your question is that, see, social accountability and whatever the social audits are there, the audit systems, international frameworks are there, those are all talking about business responsibility and accountability, right? So CSR is in a way actually synonymous to that. So there is no, CSR audit per se like that. You will say that, whether your organization is socially accountable, socially responsible or not, environmentally responsible or not. Should CSR activity audited by third party? Do we also have an internal audit team for this? As I said that, if you are talking about the Companies Act, there is a provision of the monitoring and evaluation, but it is not talking about external monitoring and audit. But there is some kind of monitoring, but it depends on you that, what kind of stringent system and accountable system you will actually will like to keep in place. Is Section 135 of Companies Act? I will answer all the Section 135 questions when I will discuss on the Companies Act. How do we consider employees' well-being as CSR activity? We are talking about CSR activity under the Companies Act. It is not. Yeah, but if you are talking about business responsibility, if a company, for example, have hundreds of contractual laborers who are actually working in inhuman condition, and they run a good school, would you call that company? I would ask the same question to you. Would you ask the company that that's a good company, that's a socially responsible company, right? So, these are the questions, whether the particular business by itself is a socially responsible business or not. By doing some token community level work, running a school, running few health clinics, definitely is not CSR in my viewpoint. Exactly, Mr. Vivek Awasthi, compliance to local laws does not come under CSR. CSR is much broader than that. Compliance, the laws are the minimum norms, to operate in a particular environment. Madhu Raghunath from TVS is asking whether volunteering time by employees will get covered. I will discuss all the Companies Act aspects when I will be doing the Companies Act session. Evolution of CSR in developing country like India means failure of government to fulfill the society needs. It's a very strong statement, Mr. Gautam Babu. It's not exactly like that. In a sense, the new Companies Act actually creating a lot of confusion because, it's a kind of, many people say that, it's a kind of indirect tax probably. So the government is saying that you will have to take this responsibility. See, market has a specific influence. Market has a very strong driver of development, whether the market has played the role or not. Primarily, even if the government is performing very well and market is not driving the development, we will believe that development might happen. And at this point of time, the globalized, market context. So I think whether the government asks it or not, market is a very strong driver for development. You just mentioned audits and how it is not mandated, but eventually CSR spends is going to be a part of your annual report, which is audited report, isn't it? An indirect mandate audit CSR. Yeah, exactly. That is what I said, that, as a general audit, you will have to do it, but not as specific CSR audit. What is the impact of the new CSR policy on India agricultural research? I will get into all this discussion on the CSR Act when I will have the session. So I'm avoiding that question, but definitely please ask me the same question. I will answer those questions when I will be discussing about the CSR Act. Mr. Shailendra Aswal is asking, is measures for employees' welfare done by companies also comes under CSR activities? Not under the CSR Act as per the provisions 135 section of CSR Act. But when we're discussing about the global framework and, the ideal business responsibility framework, definitely, employees' welfare is a primary, domain of business responsibility. How can you not take care of your own employees and then, go out and doing something, token community work? So definitely it is a domain of business responsibility, but it is not considered as a CSR work in the Companies Act. That's a separate aspect altogether. So thank you so much. Can you please give some more examples of the instrumentals? Oh, that I have already discussed. Okay, so thank you so much. Today, again, I will congratulate all of you to join the group, and I'll look forward to meet you all on 12th of August. Is it 12th of August? Yeah, 12th of August. And on 12th of August, we'll start our discussion with the business, aspect of business case of CSR. That that particular topic we could not discuss today. So we'll first start with that, and then we'll get into the next discussion. So thank you again. See you on 12th.